Erev Tov, everybody, and welcome to my sukkah, which you just saw being built in time-lapse photography. Well, since you're not really here, I have taken off my mask, and I welcome you to Erev Tov, where, of course, since Sukkot uses the etrog, a very fragrant citrus fruit, which we don't eat mostly, today's drink is going to be the lemon drop, both with alcohol and without alcohol. Now, it is thundering, so I'll stay out here for as long as possible. Here is my beautiful sukkah, and here is the lemon drop with the substitutions, because as I always say, as you know, during a pandemic, we make substitutions. So what I've done for the first time of my life is I made this lemon sugar mix. It's sugar with lemon zest, and I do have one of those zesting tools. So here is the Martini glass. It is not chilled because I'm not that skilled. So here is the lemon sugar coated glass. I have an ice-filled shaker. Inside goes, approximately a little less, because I don't drink that much. 2 ounces of vodka. We have Cointreau, which I don't have, so I am using elderflower, which I do have, and simple syrup, which I'm using agave syrup. Mix that all up. The agave syrup may make the color a little bit off. Almost smell Sukkot, which begins tomorrow night. There we go. Maybe the agave syrup gave it a little bit more color. That thunder is really rolling in. Let's taste this. L'chaim. Okay, this is excellent. I'll have another sip. Uh-oh, I forgot the most important part of the lemon drop. I forgot the fresh lemon juice. Oh no, so excited. And no, I gotta do that again. Back in there, alcohol. I was tasting too much elderflower. Also, juice of a fresh lemon. Andrea, no laughing at me. Now, something tasted a little too elderly flower. There we go. It wasn't lemony enough. Now let's taste. There we go. Much less sweet. Now it tastes like a lemon drop. Now it's really good. There's our lemon drop martini. Vodka. Calls for Cointreau, but I use elderflower liqueur. Calls for simple syrup. I used agave syrup and juice from 1 whole lemon, and of course the lemon sugar mix on the rim. The non-alcoholic mocktail, my favorite, sparkling water. This one's already flavored with lemon, with some crushed ice. Also, the fresh lemon juice. Also, the agave syrup. A non-alcoholic spoon that has a fresh spoon. This is what I'll be drinking during our interview today. This is delicious, very, very lemony. It could use more of the agave syrup. Let's see if I put a little more of the sparkling lemon. I should probably also try, I don't know if it's going to dissolve, but really a little more sweetness, because that fresh lemon juice is really bitter, or tart rather. Really, really good. So lemon, like an etrog, like a citron fruit, because as you see, it is Sukkot. My sukkah went up. You saw it yourself, and look at my beautiful palm fronds. Where did they come from? They came from our guest today, Jeff Reamer, the owner of Dixie Landscape. They came from his tree farms, from all of the trees that he grows and sells. Some of them are palms. So we're going to meet Jeff. I've known Jeff, let's see, our youngest children are 23. Well, his daughter's almost 23. I met Jeff when the kids were in strollers. So that has to be 23 years ago, or even maybe a little more. I think his wife Sue and I were pregnant. We were pregnant with those girls. So over 23 years ago. Jeff, come on in and welcome to Erev Tov.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Nice to see you. And it's a nice farm behind you. You're a little bit low on the screen. I'm missing the top of your head. Okay, there we go. You're a little bit high on the screen. So welcome, Jeff Reamer. Jeff is a member of Temple Beth. He lives around the corner. He has a long history there with a hiatus in the middle with being with me at Beth. He had his bar mitzvah at Temple Beth. Here you go on the spot, Jeff. What do you remember from your bar mitzvah, from the day itself, from any of the training, from any of those early years? What do you remember from those early years, from the early 1970s, from your bar mitzvah years?
Well, the building itself was certainly a lot different. It was a lot smaller. We didn't have hardly any of the recreational facilities. I guess there was a single sanctuary with the stained glass windows. It was nice place.
What do you remember the day itself? Do you remember your training? Do you remember your teacher? Do you remember Rabbi Baumgart? What do you remember? Do you remember a feeling that you had? Was it fear? Was it love? Was it, I want to play baseball? What was it? I want to go fishing. What was it like?
Well, I mean, every day for Hebrew school, I would be in my football pads because we would go to football practice right after Hebrew school. And even though it was sometimes hard to slide into those little desks with your pads on, everybody was pretty accepting of that. Even the football coaches allowed us to come to practice a little late. They made us run extra laps, but yeah, it was good. It was open. It was the rabbi certainly pushed us as hard as he thought he could. So it was a nice experience.
And I know that Jeff doesn't shy away from pushing young people to the hardest that they can. One of the stories I love about Jeff, who when he signs up for his temple documents, he's a Jewish farmer. He used to take his older sons out windsurfing before he would drop them off at Palmetto Middle School, which, nothing against Palmetto Middle School, but that time probably out in the water windsurfing certainly gave them a whole different perspective on the rest of the day. And I used to think that was so cool that you would do that, to get them up early to do some windsurfing before they were stuck in that building in those four yellow walls of classrooms for the next 6 hours. It really gives you a different view on life. So, Jeff, how many other Jewish farmers are there? And tell us a little bit about your farms. What do you farm? And when did you realize that this was going to be your line of work and your passion?
Well, there's quite a few Jewish farmers out there. The ag industry really has quite a few growers that are Jewish, and it was, the farming part was really, it was something that was getting me through college when I was at Miami-Dade and FIU. it was a great opportunity to be able to work in between the classes, and it was just something I really enjoyed. And I worked with Sue, who I ended up marrying a few years later. So she would help me even when she was at Palmetto High School. She would help with the books at night and actually help us cut trees or do landscaping or whatever we were doing. And I guess right after I graduated college, we started a little nursery over there by Miami-Dade Kendall campus, and kind of expanded from the acre and a quarter to today we farm over 500 acres in Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, and Fort Pierce.
And so what were the first trees that you started planting, and how did you decide that type of tree as opposed to a different kind of tree?
Well, what we do is we focus on production. If we can't grow 250 of that particular variety, we don't grow it. We're not looking for specimens. We're looking to use trees that we use on our jobs, and that you can grow a lot of and be very efficient in how we do it. So that's what we that's how we make our decisions of what to grow. And originally when we started out, we were growing, as we do today, probably half palms and half trees. And when we got our farm to maturity, ready to harvest, Hurricane Andrew came to visit and kind of knocked everything. I mean, basically it was 100% loss. So we got to start all over again.
And what was that like emotionally, spiritually, when you had to start again? What did you feel like, and did you think you were going to be able to do it and then grow to the extent that you did grow? What gave you that motivation, that encouragement, that faith? I'll use that word since I'm the rabbi.
Okay. It was, I mean, we worked 6-7 days a week, building the farm, planting the farm, disking the farm, doing the work out there with our team. And everything that we saved, we put back into the business. So one of the lessons we learned was life balance, because everything that we had worked for was gone. So after that point, we determined, with the kids, that we needed to start balancing our lives a little more than we were. And I don't believe that detracted at all from the business. So that was one lesson. Another lesson was the more the government can kind of stay out of your way, the better. Even though they came in there to try to help, it was more counterproductive than positive for the most part. And you just have to believe, you have to have a dream, and you got to pick yourself back up. Every time you get knocked down, just get back up and go again. So this proved to me that works. After looking at Dade County after Andrew, it was hard to believe that the foliage and the canopy and nature would ever come back. I mean, everything, lost its leaves and the canopy was destroyed. And, here we are today, and even 5 years later, it's incredible how resilient nature is and how it can come back. You just gotta keep the faith and move forward and stand back up and go.
I know that you really sort of feel like your truest self out in nature, out on the water, out on the farm, with horses. Your other hobby is yoga. How do you integrate all of that into being a businessman and running a big business with nurseries in 3 parts of the state? How do you balance all of that and and tell us a little bit about that nature side and how important that is. I mean, you have these businesses and yet you drive electric cars. How does that work for you? Where does it all fit together?
It's just being truthful to yourself and doing the right thing. Yeah, we right now in our fleet for our managers, we all drive either electric cars or Priuses, and we've been doing that for close to 10 years now, and it's the right thing to do. As far as the other activities, it's critical for life balance. If you, I mean, we're in it for a long run. It's like a marathon versus a sprint. So you want to make sure that you don't get burned out. And I still enjoy getting up and going to work every day. And part of that is because of the life balance and getting outside and enjoying nature. It's therapeutic. It's amazing, the nature that we have in Florida and South Florida, and the water is incredible. And if you just look around and observe and learn about it, it's really fascinating.
So Jeff and his family came with me on one of our temple trips to Israel, all 5 of them. And it happened to be at that time, Jeff's 50th birthday. He did something which I had not known to be possible. Even our Israeli guide who was on the Israeli national windsurfing team found it unusual. He climbed Masada barefoot, and we didn't do a 5 a.m. climb, and we didn't do a midwinter climb. We did a summer climb, and it was 10:30 a.m. We were the last group up, and they closed the trail because it was really too late to walk up. But Jeff did it barefoot, and because I guess if you're going to do it, you really wanted to feel it. Do you remember what that climb was like?
It was beautiful. It was great getting up there. I mean, just looking around, it was an incredible view. It was a lot of fun.
Following that trip, Jeff's 2 sons, who are, I think, a year apart in school, both wanted to go back on a trip that is based in South Florida called the Jewish Leadership Institute. Is that what it is? JLI. And they had both applied. They don't take siblings the same year, so they went other years. And when the director of that trip received their applications, he called me up and said, Rabbi, I got these applications, and I need to ask you about these boys because we have never had an application like this. Is this for real? I'm like, well, who are you talking about? If I sent you an application, they're absolutely for real. Well, let me ask you about these Reamer boys because their hobbies are hunting, fishing, and surfing. And, and they say they're Jewish. And I said, yes, they are Jewish. I officiated at both boys had a bar mitzvah, and I officiated. They went through Hebrew school with me. Yes, they both hunt, and they both fish, and they both surf. So in some bias, some anti-fishing, surfing, I won't say hunting because we have our own discussion about that. Discussion, and the director's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, you need to take these boys because just because they have hobbies different than the other teens or young adults at that time, it doesn't mean that they won't add to your group. And then after that summer, I got a call saying they were the greatest leaders on that trip. And from that trip came a marriage of one of your sons and now a grandson. So that was an amazing, it was one of the funniest calls I ever received. And one of the greatest lessons, I taught another Jewish professional against our own in-house bias, our own in-group bias. So that was amazing. And their commitment to Israel really has grown since that first trip, and also that second trip, which was amazing. Both of those opportunities. So let's talk about having a business and what does it mean to build a business. And did you think at the beginning of building this business, which is pretty big now, did you want to, if you had children, were you thinking about a legacy? Were you thinking, I'm going to build a business and pass it on to my children? Was that something along with the other traditions that you have in your life that you thought about was important?
No, legacy was not even on the radar. I didn't even think about it. I thought it was important for all the kids to do what they were passionate about. So no, legacy wasn't important. Um, you know, building the business, it's not about me. I've got a great team. Some of the people have been with me for, over 30 years, and they're great. They're amazing. So, it just surround yourself by people that are better than you and smarter than you. And um, the team I got is great. I mean, they have a sense of urgency. They take care of their customers, but it's not me. I just kind of got to get out of their way and let them go. But that's been really fun, and that gets me up in the morning to make sure that I'm doing what I can do to support them.
And what about COVID and the business? Your employees. I mean, you have a lot of employees who are actually out in the fields. Are some of them close together? They ride in trucks. How were you able to meet these challenges over these last 6 months? How have your employees met these challenges, and what have you been able to do to help them get through this difficult time?
Currently, we have 0 COVID cases, 0 positives, which is great. At one point we have over 330 employees, most of them in the field. And like you said, they ride together, so it's really hard to use distance. So we implemented a lot of different things. We take it extremely serious. In our office, masks are mandatory. In the field, masks are mandatory. And it is hot outside, and the guys are really good about distancing and wearing their masks. And we provide soap and whatever they need to keep their hands clean. And we've also added extra trucks so that they don't have to ride when they're carpooling together to the jobs. We'll allow them to ride separately in their own vehicles. And also we, implemented sick leave, that if anybody, I don't care if they have a cough, they're going to be paid to stay home. So we follow the CDC guidelines about when they're allowed to reconnect with their team. And so far it's worked out really good. I think most of the cases, I don't know of any cases that occurred during the work hours. Most of it, the infections occurred at their homes or on when they were recreating or whatever, so with their family members. So I think.
So now let me ask you, going back to, I know you said there are a lot of Jews in the agricultural business, but I think we also have this feeling that out there in the farmlands and other parts of the state, that you may see more anti-Semitism and people not always being as politically correct. Have you come across that more recently, less recently, and has that been any part of your professional life? And when it does, if it does happen, what do you do, or how do people respond?
That has not been an issue for years that I can even remember. So I think people are becoming more educated, and I would assume more tolerant. But our vendors, the people we work with, our customers, a lot of the builders we work for, are Jewish, and it's even the farmers. They have, a lot of them have conservative views, but I don't see hatred or anti-Semitism. We really don't deal with that out in the field and in the environment and in the trade groups and the different ag committees and whatnot. I really don't see that at all recently. I think people are becoming certainly more educated to what's going on, or possibly they hide it better. But I certainly haven't seen it in the last, I'll say, 12 years. I don't think that's been an issue for us.
And another issue, of course, that's important to people now. How have you seen changes in the climate change affecting your business, the land, the ocean? You're out a lot. You see frost, you see heat. Have you noticed a change, and do you have to change the way you work and grow because of that?
The answer is yes. And for us, there's a lot of positive to that. We're in Fort Pierce, in where we grow in Homestead, the plants are tropical. So it used to be that you couldn't farm those up in St. Lucie County, or you would definitely get a hard freeze once or twice a year. We haven't had a hard freeze in close to 8 or 9 years. So we are definitely seeing it affect us. There's issues with water that are important. We definitely see changes in the, tangible changes that we have to deal with in the environment. So it's definitely staying warmer, which is an issue for us during the peak of summer with the stress on the plants. But during the winter, it's certainly milder, and we're not seeing the freezes. We used to have ice in Homestead every year, 2 or 3 events of sub-freezing weather that we'd have damage, and we'd have to take care of our crops during the freezes. So certainly there's been a shift. We're also more aware of how important it is to take care of our land and take care of the water and take care of our resources and even the birds and other species that are out in the farms to coexist. It makes good sense to use the best management practices with erosion and different issues. We're doing no-till. We're using a lot of products from Israel with our irrigation that reduces the amount of water that's used to make it more efficient through some of the drip systems. So it's really important to be good stewards of the land. It's the right thing to do. It also affects the bottom line in a positive manner as well, and it's good for the long run.
So the taking care of the land is really not just as we're stewards of the land, which is what we're supposed to be, and of course it's a Jewish principle, but it actually is the best for your bottom line as well. But it's the value that we believe in. So if you were giving advice to regular folks who have their own trees and plants, and how should we handle our own water management for our homes and for our own landscaping? What's an idea that we should use? How can we help reduce our own water waste, and how do we manage our water resource better in terms of our landscaping?
For one thing, during droughts, which we're going to have, don't worry about a bright green lawn. It's okay to have some browning in the lawn. It's part of it, and you're
even in Pinecrest, we're allowed to do that.
You are allowed to do that, yes. It also, again, the benefit is that during stress, water stress, you'll develop better root structure. So you'll need actually less water because your lawns will develop longer, more viable roots. So, and with your trees and other things, if you see a little bit of insect damage, a little bit's okay. So to be tolerant of nature, everything is symbiotic. So the little insects that are on your plants are eaten by different things, and wildlife seems to thrive better. So yeah, just be a little tolerant of some browning lawns, and take care of your trees if you need to. But for the most case, it'll brown. Most of it'll come back.
So I like that. We have to be tolerant of nature. some of the stresses actually, it's sort of like in our own lives, some of the stresses that we face in life, they actually give us a sort of deeper roots and a stronger root base when we face those stresses. And we don't have to look to throw toxins on all the little insects, because we have to be tolerant of that nature around us. Well, that is excellent. Thank you, Jeff. Again, I want to show everybody my palm fronds from Dixie Landscape Trees. Thank you. This is my sukkah. The sukkah, as many of you people know, has to have 3 walls, and my sukkah does have 3 walls. There is Jeff's one of his farms, the Snapper Creek Farms. Jeff, where is this farm?
This is in Fort Pierce in St. Lucie County.
Okay, there's the forest, and that's a beautiful drone footage of. And what trees grow there?
Today, just about everything that'll grow in Homestead will grow in Fort Pierce.
Oh, and it used to not be that way. So
that's right.
That's interesting. Okay, so that's I know we've been up there for your son's weddings, and my kids have been up there on the way to Circle F from the JCC Macbeth days, and that's a fun place to visit. And sometimes when I'm really lucky, Jeff will bring me down some of those red oranges. So if it doesn't get cold enough to get those blood red oranges in the winter anymore?
It does. It does. Yep.
All right. So I'll wait for December.
Great.
For my blood red oranges. So I hope everybody, thank you so much, Jeff, and thank you to your whole family for the work that they do with you. Mm-hmm. I wish everybody a very happy Sukkot. Tomorrow night, you can join us for Erev Sukkot services. They're online, but something very special. You can actually come to the temple tomorrow, Friday, between 4 and 6 p.m. with a reservation. Go into the sukkah with your family. You can take a picture and leave that picture on your sukkah, on the sukkah wall, to say, I've been here, spaced out, and not spaced out, social distance, so we can have a real sukkah visit at the temple. You can come to the service online at 6:30. Of course, Saturday morning, the first day of Sukkot, we have a service online and Zoom at 10:30 a.m. And so we have a lot to do to celebrate the stress of the pandemic. There are ways when it has made it stronger, certainly more creative, to find ways to still celebrate and participate together and learn together and find our spiritual connection in many ways. Jeff Reamer finds a spiritual connection not only the times when we get him to temple, which he will go to when asked, but also, and for celebrations, but also certainly out in God's world, where he feels the impact of the Spirit of the Eternal One out in nature. And so we thank you, Jeff, for sharing your knowledge with us and introducing us to some of your tree farms. I thank you, Andrea, for your wonderful production assistant for this show, Erev Tov, and for all that you do for the temple. And I wish everybody Chag Sameach, a happy holiday, and of course, an Erev Tov and a L'chaim, as always. Take care, everybody.